Well, of course, they were dead wrong. Joining me now, National Taxpayers Executive Vice President Brandon Arnold and Delancey Strategies President Jared Levy. Good to see you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Brandon, I mean, it is exactly the same rhetoric, and they were all those brainiacs from the Fed, Janet Yellen, et cetera. They were all dead wrong. A lot of us here were right, but they were wrong. Why should Americans believe it this time?
Well, they shouldn't. And, listen, there's a lot of complicated factors out there with the economy. We talk about geopolitical constraints in Ukraine right now. But here's one thing that's pretty simple. Don't spike the football this early. You have 1 month of slightly positive improvements on the inflation rate, most of which is attributable to energy, which is a very volatile commodity. We see higher food prices, higher shelter prices, higher prices for medical care. There's so much other noise taking place in this data right now. For them to be out there celebrating is absolutely tone deaf.
And Jared, yesterday we got the one set of numbers, the numbers from the consumer today, the numbers from the producers. That usually precedes. That was down a little too. But again, all of the downward movement was because, as Brandon was saying, of energy. And what we now know is that energy demand is way down because prices went way up. That is, there was demand destruction. That's why the prices have come down, and that's probably not going to continue.
Yeah, it's funny how you can listen. I mean, this guy, you can quote any statistic to make it work in your favor. First of all, what's kind of ironic about this is both the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and the PPI, the Producer Price Index. They're always saying, no, strip out the food and energy. Look at the core. And if you look at the core, which are stickier prices, both of those went up. They weren't flat. So, again, they're sort of playing on both sides. And that's, just like Brandon stated, this is not the time to spike the ball, to deliver that kind of messaging. What you're going to end up doing is leading yourself to bigger disappointment. But again, I think what they're hoping is a repeat of what happened last year. So July, August, September, I'm looking at the chart right now. Inflation looked like it was coming under control, and then boom, later in the year, it surged, and we know what it's done since then. And I think this is a little bit of a seasonal thing that they're playing off of, hoping that they can run around, get that messaging out there. Oh, we just passed this bill, and don't worry, Americans, inflation's under control. And the reality is on Main Street, it's not. It's just not.
And, Brandon, what are higher taxes going to do for all of this? Higher taxes and a supersized IRS, is that going to help the situation in any way?
Well, it's hard to answer your question with a straight face, David. Obviously, everybody from the Penn Wharton budget model to the Congressional Budget Office to even Bernie Sanders knows that this bill is a complete canard. It is not going to do one iota to lower inflation, particularly in the short term. It will hurt the economy, and we're in all likelihood in a recession currently, and it will hit Americans with higher taxes, including Americans that make much less than $400,000 a year, and subject them to more scrutiny by the IRS. But it's not going to do anything for inflation.
Brandon, Jared, I wish we had more time, but we do have to move on. Good to see you both. Thank you for being here. Coming up, the fallout.